So you have a young brother by the name of Jordan Evans. He's a former student at Northmont High School in the Dayton suburb of Clayton, Ohio, and was drug tested twice after his teachers claimed that he came to school reeking of weed. Now, they said Evans said he was subjected to a search, and although it turned up nothing, he was still suspended and later expelled. Now, the drug test will prove if you smoke weed or not. He said the principal made me take everything out of my pockets, made me take off my shoes, as well as pull up my sweatpants. He said she didn't find anything at all. They said, and I didn't have anything at all. They said the 10th grader said he felt targeted and argued that administrators should have handled things differently. He said they could have smelled other students, but they picked me. He said, I told them it couldn't be me who smelled like weed. It said the incident unfolded last Wednesday when a teacher reportedly smelled the drug in Evans' person. They said, according to suspension notice, multiple staff members also smelled the stench, leading to the teen's suspension. Now, they said the Northmont's Code of Conduct states that marijuana on breath or person is a violation carrying a 10-day suspension or possible expulsion. But if you smoke marijuana and anyone knows anything about that, it's going to show up in the drug test for at least 30 days. People know that. So the drug test is your vindication if it's him or not. Now, let's continue. Say his mother, Katina Cottrell, came into the school to try and prove her son's innocence. As a Cottrell, registered nurse, so she's an RN, said she performed a drug test on her son in front of school officials and even took Jordan to urgent care for a second test that day. The results, Cottrell says both were negative. It says she told, the media that she suspects her son is being discriminated against. The incident comes amid a concerted push by the district to increase diversity while improving relationships between white teachers and black students. So you have a lot of race problems. Bottom line, this is why I kept preaching hundreds and hundreds of times. Black folks get together, create our own schools. We won't have these problems. They said, but school data shows Northmont student body is mostly white. 65% to be exact, and 24% students are black. Well, when you have a situation like that, the majority of teachers are white, maybe 80+% are white. If they're black teachers somewhere, maybe they're coaches or something like that, but they're not going to be half of the teaching staff at all, or the administration. So they said the long-term goals is to improve what we're doing with students of color as far as, regional, as far as relational things. It's making sure we aren't doing things that are subjective and we're following all protocol. Okay, that's what they claim. They said the fellows director, Michael Carter, who was hired by the district in 2018 to train staff on cultural awareness. That school got a race problem. That's all that's telling me. When they're bringing people in, talking about cultural awareness and increasing diversity, letting you know it has a race problem from the top, which is in administration, to the teachers, and down, even they come down to the students. So they say the district declined to comment on Evans' expulsion, citing privacy laws, but said that it provides all students consider suspension or expulsion an opportunity to speak against the possible discipline. They said the 10th grader has been out of school for a little over a week, and his grades are already suffering. His mother has since retained a lawyer with a hearing set for that Thursday. So this is what black children go through in schools. And this is why I'm just a big advocate of homeschool. I'm a big advocate if we can't homeschool, then let's all get together, pool our resources, and then we can create schools. I'm telling you, there's a stark difference with our children being in school with black teachers and black administration. I'm not talking about the public school system, because you're going to say, well, I know a school kind of like that, and the public school is the worst. The public school system is rigged in that manner. I'm talking about schools that we create, schools that we put teachers there who love and care about our children. Those children thrive. Those children do wonderful. Okay. And I've seen it too many times. When you put black kids in the same environment that's the white kids get to have, and they're not being harassed and not being suspended for any little thing, the black children do wonderful in education. They thrive. That's why I don't understand why we're still putting our children in public school. Some of us want to put our kids in public school, some of us, because we don't want to get together as a community. I don't know why we don't want to get together. I was thinking about that along the lines today when I was driving home, and I said, this individualism is killing black folk. That statement ain't got nothing to do with me. That's him, that's her. That statement right there is killing us. Even if someone treats a black person different and they clearly doing it because they black, you still will say, well, it ain't got nothing to do with me. If they doing the guys and them just being black, then it has something to do with you because you black. But so many black folks today, especially in that millennial generation, probably a little bit worse than in the Gen X generation, you are on that, it ain't nothing to do with me. I'll tell you what, the Gen X people kind of, if they will fall back and everything happened with the millennial generation for the most part, black folks, like I said, we are just about done in America anyway, because we don't want to build no families, and with families, protects the communities. With the communities, we build institutions like schools, that's the institution. And we have people fighting so hard even for family creation. That's why we are in trouble, our kids are in trouble, the way it is today. And that's why they're so subjected to this. Because see, at least back in the day, when our kids would be subjected to something, black folks would create something for them so they won't have to be subjected to racism. But now it's like you still send your kids where they're not wanted. You still send your kids to school to prison pipeline. You still send your kids to race soldiers roaming around the schools. Then they can't even protect the schools because their little Johnny has a problem at home or a girl reject him. Now he want to come air out the place. That don't happen at the schools where we create for our children, but we still send our kids to those schools. Like I said, we as a people need to do a whole lot better to protect our children because we're not protecting them at all. You're still dependent on them to protect your children, educate your children. Malcolm X said only a fool will send their kids to a place like that to have them educate, knowing how they're treated, knowing that. And yet we still doing it. Malcolm X is so right. The majority of us are fools. Well, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the particular story with this young brother. Clearly innocent. You suspend him anyway. That's on those guys of, hey, it's just what we say. It don't matter what the facts say. We do what we want. Because we are the white supremacists. That's why. We do whatever the hell we want. You can't do nothing about it. And this is what happens when you don't create your own schools. You're subjected to discrimination, racism, white supremacy. And it gets annoying reporting these stories. But his mom is a registered nurse. She's doing very well. She could send her black son to a good school. She can. That should be a wake-up call for her as well. Don't subject your son to that kind of environment.